Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot. You've seen the thumbnail and it's a little bit dramatic, but I do feel like I'm basically giving up on the allotment. I don't mean giving them up, I mean for the rest of this growing season, I am taking the pressure off myself and I am feeling like what's done is done. I'm gonna probably start putting a lot of the beds to sleep already, start thinking about, you know, improving the texture and the organic matter in those beds. And I'm just kind of, I'm not going to be worried very much about growing much over winter. And it seems a little bit early. I know there's still a lot of time left in the season, but I've had such a pig's ear of, you know, a season so far, and I have been so tired from work. I have basically been really close to approaching full-on burnout, especially this last week. Today it is Wednesday and I am now on leave from work. I've turned around and said, look, I can't do it anymore. I booked it in a little bit earlier, but yeah, I've got something like 10 days paid leave now, so I'm taking some of it. You know, we don't get overtime in our jobs, but we do get time off in lieu. So any time that you work unpaid, you are meant to kind of claw it back eventually, but since February, I've not really had the time. So I feel like this is it for the allotment. You know, I've got a week off now, but I'm not going to be spending it down here like I normally would be, and I'm going to be spending it sorting out the back of the house. I was talking about that in a recent video. But it doesn't feel like a negative for me, you know, it actually feels like a positive, this kind of acceptance that I'm sort of giving up on growing, basically. Everything that's still in the ground is going to stay in here for a while. We've still got lots of crops that might come, the tomatoes, look at the size of this. I had one of these the other day, this is the Green Doctor, absolutely phenomenal. You know, there's still stuff in the ground over here, some courgettes, and the Roma tomatoes, everything in the greenhouses will carry on going as well. So it's not like, you know, a big dramatic, I'm giving up on everything and I'm never coming back to the allotment again. I love these verbena, just fantastic sea of verbena. But it does feel like I'm not worried about sowing and getting more things planted out in these beds anytime soon. I'm here today to basically just do a bit of harvesting. There's some very exciting harvests. I can't wait to show you in the polytunnel, but going to be harvesting and then we're away for a few days. We're doing a bit of a recharge, you know, going on some adventures out and about to see some places. And then when I get back, it's going to be a few days working on the house and then I'm going to be back at work before I know it. And once again, it will feel like I have no time whatsoever. So I'm cutting myself some slack. You know, September will be tending the plot, just taking more harvests, a bit of watering here and there, which I love. You know, I do quite like that as a job. And then we're going to be really, in October, the season is going to be winding right down. And I'll probably still do a bit of growing in the polytunnel over winter, probably not the greenhouses really, they don't suit it that well. And that's going to be it for this year. I'm going to have a bit of a kind of October, November, probably really just recharge, just kind of sit there going, whoa. And then it will be time for shed and, you know, all the other winter projects, which I love. I love putting the allotment to bed, to be honest, and working on the infrastructure, building greenhouses, sorting out the water butts, that kind of thing. I definitely want to. I can see the tomatoes in the polytunnel over there, the red glinting. Oh, catch your eyes, looks so good. And yeah, I just love that kind of winter project allotment phase, to be honest. Before I get harvesting, there is some stuff to do, but look at these. I cannot get over the size of these red cabbages, looking so healthy, looking really good. I'm so excited. This is the Minestra Nera as well, looking really healthy, just starting to get that kind of spiral shape to the leaf, really cool. And the kale is now definitely ready for some harvesting. But what I cannot believe this. Look at this jungle. This is 2 squash plants that have gone absolutely ballistic. Butternut squash, I think, and you can see this temporary netting is, can you see the angle on that? It's not great, so I just want to prop this up temporarily with a bit of bamboo cane support in the ground. So as is very common in my videos, we really here have an example of how not to do things. I just thought this would hold a little bit better, but I think it's mainly just because of the knots that I've used to lash this together with the bamboo support at the top have not really done their job. So I'm just using these short canes and I'm hoping this will just give it that extra bit of rigidity so that it stays upright instead of falling inwards, because I do feel like I'm going to come up to the allotment one day and this will no longer be in place. What is on my shopping list at the moment is some of those little brackets that you can get as well, so I can just put these straight into the side of the raised beds. It was sort of one of the points about getting the raised beds. I thought, oh, it'll make this netting and defending so much easier. It does, but you have to plan for it and get the right stuff. This squash is absolutely spilling out all over the place. Okay, is that actually going to help? No. Oh, for goodness sake. See, now it's too tall. Oh, I hate this. I hate this so much. Maybe I can push it down further and it'll get tight. For God's sake. Oh, just meant to be a temporary fix. Oh, okay. Oh, right. Oh. This kind of highlights the problem with temporary fixes, you know, when you've got a temporary fix and then you need to do a temporary fix to the temporary fix. Makes you question what is the bloody point. But what I've done, basically retied these knots, so giving them a bit more rigidity. And let's get this back in place. I have basically just driven a couple of fencing pins into the ground, and I was thinking maybe these could just hold them in place naturally, but I've just tied them off on this one. And on this one, it's super large, chunky boy. So I've just been able to kind of spin this round, and I think that is going to stay in that little top kind of hoop there, hopefully anyway. And as I've done that, all of the butternut squash plant has spilled out all over the place. And I do think I probably need to give this a bit of a prune because it has just gone fully wild. Would you just look at this thing? It's so strange. This is how I remember squash plants going and growing and just like getting on with it. And it's the only one on the allotment that has really loved life this year. All the others have been slow, so slow. And this one, on the other hand, has actually gone crazy. Look at this, got a few little fruits. And what I probably want to do is prune this back just so that the fruits that are on there do actually turn into proper fruits instead of loads and loads of really small ones. But hopefully you can see the structure is looking a little better. It's still pretty wibbly wobbly at the top, and I do want to get this sorted properly. Ideally, I would just get a load more fencing pins, and I think, next door's, that is a bramble in the raspberry patch, which is a bit frustrating. This definitely needs a quick prune. Neighbour stuff going wild. What was I saying? Yeah, what I'd like to do is just invest in some pins, basically. And, you know, you get something like this, it's not going to rust away, like those little green plastic covered pins that I've used before. And then you can drive those in, maybe cut off the top, or get ones that don't have a top like this, the fencing pins, and then just slot the glue straight on there, and it will be so much easier. One day I'll do it one day. Okay, so that's that stupid thing out the way. I wasn't meant to be doing any faffing around like this today, but I think it does make sense. I've given it a quick prune. It doesn't look like that much of a difference, but I've taken out a few key shoots. I've just kind of chucked them in the bed. There's a load down there, which is why it looks pretty much the same. But speaking of silly stuff, stupid stuff, look at this. This is stupid. This was meant to be a wood chip path. And just everywhere I look, there's all sorts of just kind of maintenance jobs and that kind of thing that I've really fallen behind on. It's been ages since I mowed or trimmed. Everything's looking pretty weedy. This bed has got basically no produce in it. There's one courgette at the end. There's some beetroot here that look pretty good, actually. Fantastic. Golden beetroot, which I've not tasted yet, but they're meant to be incredible. A little bit special, slightly less earthy flavour. The beans, I must say, were a bit of a disappointment this year. They just didn't crop as well as they normally do, and they started looking really kind of long in the tooth, dying back super early. And, you know, there's something going on the leaves. I don't know if this is a bacterial thing or, you know, there was something, but they just weren't too happy. So what I've done is I've just left them to go to seed. I'm going to let them all dry out like this lot have done. And we've got more Kalima bean seeds for next year. Just one of those things. Hasn't gone particularly well, but you just chalk it up to, you know, these things happen. Some more beetroot, looking pretty good, actually. I'm really glad I put this out. It was a bit of a kind of last chance hurrah, just see what it does. It didn't look too healthy when it went out, but it's done its thing. Loads of lettuce plants going to seeds, which is really cool. Dahlias still doing pretty well, and I do have some lettuce growing, some late volunteer lettuce. I might take a little bit of that home today, which is fantastic. Here's the courgette, and look at this. I can't believe it. Finally had a courgette going, and I let it go slightly too long. I think that's still just about courgette sized. There's one on there that's just a day or two away from harvest. They're so bloody annoying, courgettes. They're perfect for just, 1 or 2 days, and if you miss them, that's it. The tomatoes you've already seen. This squash is just about hanging on. It's not looking amazing, but it's doing okay. All the cucumbers that I planted outdoors, complete waste of time. I don't know why I ever bother, just not worth it. I did plant an aubergine outdoors as well. That was completely pointless. Oh dear me, these courgettes still just looking absolutely rubbish. There is one on here. I cut this just now to harvest. A little bit of a funky shape, but we might get a couple. We're really just doing a whistle-stop tour of all the stuff that's gone wrong, but I don't really mind. Like I say, I'm not really invested anymore for the rest of the year. I don't care what happens. And we're already starting to think about hitting reset and just going again next year. All of the apples completely rubbish this year. They've started turning really early, and you can see what looks like an amazing load of windfall apples there on the cardboard, but they're all early. I had one off the plant the other day that looked perfectly ripe. It's still a little bit early. I normally start to harvest these kind of second week of September, second week of September. And they've gone red a bit early, loads and loads of drop off, and loads of maggots inside as well. The codling moth doing damage as always. I have tried pheromone traps, but it doesn't appear too effective. I've got this as well on the outdoor tomatoes. Oh, it's scary. I've seen this on a few neighbours as well. I was chatting to them about it, and I don't think it's blight because it would be going through the plants like wildfire, but everyone's outdoors tomatoes have got a little bit of that. Don't touch, don't spread it, but yeah, the romas are coming, they're coming through. Get out of the way. We've got some fruit on here, although some pest damage as well, which is quite common when I grow anything outdoors. Stuff starts to burrow in, not great. The greenhouse, it looks good at a glance, but this cucumber is really sad. I don't know why. It's super wilty, it's definitely got enough water. And I had some of these crystal lemon, I think they're called, cucumbers the other day. They look so funky. We harvested a few, me and Jess. Absolutely blooming disgusting. I thought maybe we just had one that had been on there a bit too long, but I harvested 3, all different sizes. One I thought was way too small, all of them bitter, all of them just a bit gross, and I'm wondering if maybe it's just packed in there too tight, too much competition, not enough water. I have noticed a lot of wilting on this cucumber in particular. All the ones in the polytunnel are fine and they're crammed in just as much, but it's just not too happy. There is a masterpiece in here as well, I think it is, maybe a Carmen, but these ones have fortunately been quite nice. The rest of the tomatoes in here are looking pretty good, and there's a few just starting to split where I've been a little bit, so frustrating. Seems like a bit of a waste, bit of user error, but once again, just been one of those really busy weeks trying to get everything sorted ahead of my leave. Just so much working and not much time at the plot. There are some, these are still going absolutely, what the heck? Look at these. I'm nervous to touch them too much because they must be so heavy on the plant, but hopefully you can see just how gigantic these goat bag are. I did a bit of like tying up here to just try and support it a little bit more because I'm so worried it's just going to snap off with the weight of 4 gigantic. These ones are a little bit smaller, and there's just 2 of them. Hard to see with all the leaves in the way, sorry. But I'm quite excited about those. Sweet potatoes looking okay as well, and the sartrellaise is looking leggy as hell, but this one has shot up, the survivor tomato. Everything in the rebuilt greenhouse, fortunately, really good, really just looking so fantastic. And oh my goodness, look at these. This is my beaver dam plant, and just that explosion of colour and redness, fantastic. A few of those to harvest. The one issue I've had with this is branches getting too heavy and me not supporting them properly. I do think next year slightly fewer peppers so I can give them a bit more space and attention. I've said that every year, but I do think it's important. And maybe investing in some fancy plant supports, so that when I've not got the time to, faff around with bamboo canes and twine and all that stuff. Just something you can slot in and plant around it, and it does the job for you automatically, The quad grow peppers looking okay, not fantastic in here, but they're looking okay, a decent amount of crop on them. These Ring of Fire pods looking really strong, really, really nice. And this Korean chili just looking fantastically healthy. Look at that. We've got some aubergine kind of movement just about. They're only in little 1 litre pots, but look at this. This is a White Knight just coming through on there, which is quite exciting. A few little purple flowers as well. And yes, just some spring onions and a few flowers and herbs, and that's about it in here. These are the basket flowers that Audrey sent me the seeds for, and I have very rudely neglected, and unfortunately they've gone to seed just in their little 1-inch pots. Bit of a shame. We've got some of the snap branches over here. I thought maybe they would ripen, but unfortunately not. They've just kind of gone mouldy. This one as well, I think this was the Antopachydelma. So sad, so lazy for me. Well, it's not lazy, it's time, It's all about that time and effort, and I've spoken about the importance of supporting the chili peppers, and then I've just not done it because I've looked at it and thought, that's probably fine, and I've only supported the ones that I felt like I had to. One of these things, use error, silly mistake, but not the end of the world, not worth crying over spilled milk. The scallywag plant looking okay, they're not doing great in the 2.5 litre pots, but the pepperdew, fantastic, and not got any ready to harvest just yet on here, but really nice healthy looking plant and a good number of pods as well. So the theme is good things in the greenhouses, not so great things in the beds, but I think that's pretty much always the case. I'm always slightly neglectful of the beds, and I take much better care of things in the greenhouses, but you've only got so much time, haven't you? And you've got to spend it somewhere. And somewhere I have been spending a lot of time is the polytunnel. My kind of routine at the moment is just coming up, spending maybe an hour or 2, maybe 3 if I'm lucky, just watering, pruning, giving a bit of kind of emergency support to whatever needs it. And it looks really good in here, folks. Look at this. You can see literally from my plot entrance, these red tomatoes just all over the plants, and it's such a good sight. It is so exciting. I'm just over the moon. If I look up as well, all these cucumbers looking really good, and the tomatoes now have just gone ballistic. This one is the Black Moon. I'm kind of letting it go, and I'm going to start trailing it over and I will nip out the top soon, but for now, if that goes over and the tomatoes start growing down, it's still viable, and why would I get rid of tomatoes if I don't need to? In here, the cucumbers are, look at this one I've missed. That's a real shame. I've had a lot of these ones this year, really nice cucumber, but similar to courgettes, they're just so easy to miss on the perfect day of harvesting, and you come up one day and think, that's a little bit too small, it won't have developed any sweetness, and then the next time you're here, 3 or 4 days have passed and it's turned into this, which is just seeds. Seeds, an inedible cucumber. Are there any more on here? Yes, there's a couple of nice ones on there that I'll harvest, and a little bit of dieback around the bottom of the cucumbers, but they look okay. Some melon development. Oh, exciting. I think this is the sugar baby, looking really good. And here is the showstopper, the Black Moon. Just looks amazing. And you can see how it turns from this dark purple, I was talking about this in my first taste video, this lovely dark purple to this kind of lovely dark red. It gets a little bit of squidge. I think that could do a little bit longer on the plant, but so close. And just look at that. Look at those cherries. Fantastic. What a smile on my face. And I did finally, I gave up. I used to have these scaffolding boards all lined up, and it was so difficult getting in here now with the tomatoes kind of sprawling out into the path. So I've just put them on the ground, which will be a bit noisy. I apologise, they're pretty shaky, but it does mean I can actually get through a little bit easier. I think these are the Alice's Dream. Look at those colours. Look at those colours. Fantastic. There's a rogue cucumber going along back there. And look, the indigo blue just starting as well. So I'm going to get in here, do a big, nice, super tomato harvest. This magical truss, look at this. Whoa, that is fantastic. And what I would really love to be able to do is, take one of these while it's like this, and you get the whole truss. But on a lot of them, they just start to split at the top and you end up wasting them, you know, if you wait too long. So I'm just going to take these off. And you've seen them now looking glorious and fantastic. This is the Corolla. And as long as you've seen them, that means I'm okay to harvest them, I think. Chili's looking okay as well, but not a big chili harvest today, but there are a few in here. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time harvesting. Oh, this chili jungle, it does look good. It does look good. Just before I do the polytunnel harvest, because I'll forget if I don't do it, I'll just a super quick whip round the rest of the second plot where it's just, everything's a bit of a mess. It's a complete mess. These potato tubs, I don't know how good the crop is, but all of the potatoes have now died back and all that's left is the borage and the calendula. It's not looking particularly like strong stems. Let's do a little exploration. Okay, this one is a load of homemade compost. Oh, dinkers, little dinky ones. Don't think they've done great. Okay, I'll have a proper look, maybe a bit later. I'm not sure if today, because I've got so many potatoes already. I really just want to store these, to be honest. But plenty of potatoes, a couple of tubs there, a couple of tubs there, a couple more tubs at the back, 4 at the back over there. I do as well, oh, let's do these. Here we go, first harvest of the harvest video that accidentally turned into an allotment update. These carrots have now been completely munched by slugs, I think, eating the leaves. But let's see, any good? Okay. They're okay. They're little kind of slightly tiddly thin ones, but they look quite nice, don't they? That counts, that's carrots. This is all just from a late scattering of seed, I think in kind of June in spent compost. So not much germination and not amazing carrots, but carrots all the same, which is a miracle on this plot, to be honest. But yeah, everywhere else, it does feel like a bit of a disappointing year and a bit of admitting defeat. You know, we've got this replanted squash just about surviving. It might do something. This pumpkin has been massively attacked by, I think, probably a mammal, a large mammal. Some pretty big marks in there, so I'm hoping we'll have a second fruit. And some of the new leaves should start to grow through that mesh pretty soon. This one is the one that the foxes dug up and it's just about hanging on, and this is what I want. I just want the leaves to start coming through, grow through this mesh, and this will protect it from any foxes. The sweet potatoes, do you remember those? Just a mess, wilty mess. This is pretty. That's a little antirrhinum. Not sure where that's come from. Very cute. We do at least have this asparagus bed, which I'm so excited about now, and what a great investment earlier in the year this was. Some of the squashes that I planted out are actually looking really healthy. They're growing, they're slowly growing along. These asters look fantastic. Another one, this is establishing. This is good news. What's not good news? Plums, like the apples, just a complete write-off. What a waste. Spilled milk, don't cry about it, JB, just move on. The peas are well and truly, look at this. Looks like a scene of devastation, but it's all deliberate so that I can harvest those pods and have seeds for next year. This is another squash and it's looking just wilty. I've been watering this by hand because the hose doesn't come up this far at the plot. So when I do come up, I normally give this a whole can or two, a little bit of feed every now and then as well, and we'll see what it does, won't we? There are leaks in here, but you can't see them because of all the fox defences. Oh dear, what a year. I'm hoping it's better next year. These 2 squashes, established, been watering them by hand as well. And the onions. What onions? What onions? Just ridiculous. I did a full kind of showing you these in a video recently, but I thought they might do something a little bit more now towards the end of the season, but they've done nothing, you know. Look at that. Just rubbish, absolutely rubbish. Might try some wintering onions, but probably just have something growing in the bed. I don't have high hopes, let's put it that way. You can see a few more leeks over here. They are getting established, which is nice. Now, to start the harvest, just as I was filming over there, my friend Elmo, from a few plots down, called me over and said, JV, I got something for you. Do you want to see something absolutely ridiculous? I complain a bit about my soil and the growing conditions and that kind of thing, but when the neighbour can grow this, What the heck? The mother chuckers, look. They've been ridiculous. And this is their smallest one. And they've got one that's nearly twice the size. And I said, we won't get through it. There's just the two of us, but fantastic veg growers. We had our allotment show, which I didn't even know about, a few days ago, and they cleaned up. They got 5 golds, loads of silvers and a few bronzes as well. They're just fantastic, and they're pretty new to allotment growing, and they've done the same thing. Dug it over, loads of manure, and I say done the same thing because that's what a lot of the new allotment kind of holders have turned up and started doing, and it's worked out pretty well for them. So it's why I'm sort of leaning more towards giving that a go over winter, digging, adding lots of organic matter, and if I can get a cabbage half the size of that, I'll be very pleased. Wow. Now you can tell I was hoping for good things today because I have brought the fancy harvesting truck. This does not make many appearances on the allotment, but you can see what a sight seeing this thing filled with chilies. Very, very happy. Now one thing I did want to mention, this year I have had trouble with my sweet peppers, and this is very common. I don't really know how to combat it, but what I have noticed is loads and loads of pest problems and just kind of like rotting on the plant. And I would say probably 60-70% of the fruit ends up looking like this. It's got something burrowed into it, and then it goes a bit mank, or it never really gets to full size on the plant. I'm not quite sure why. These are my California Wonder and the Antep Acidolma, which are kind of mild. They're like 2000 Scoville. Similar, lots and lots of damage. So I'm not sure what's caused it. Or what has been lucky this year, I've had no mice damage, touch wood. No mice or rodent damage in the greenhouses, which has been fantastic. Maybe that's down to all the foxes that are around digging up the beds, I don't know. Now in the small greenhouse, I have done a bit of pruning of that crazy cucumber. There's not too much exciting stuff in here. There is some very cute stuff though, including the little spoon tomato. Now these don't taste the best and they're quite a lot of effort, but they are starting to ripen and they are undeniably adorable, aren't they? Just look at those. And I like these as well because you can harvest a whole truss, and it doesn't matter if there's a few little green ones like I was saying in the polytunnel, because you still get a decent crop. And there are going to be hundreds of these miniature trusses. There are a few of the first Rosella tomatoes as well, and these are a really nice dark kind of cherry, but they've got quite a unique colour to them. They're sort of like a blackberry kind of fruity look to them, and that might be, to be honest, because I'm slightly won over by the marketing, which does, I think, describe this as having a bit of a blackberry flavour. And normally when I see something like that, I'm like, yeah, sure, but there is something different about these. There is a fruitiness that reminds you of like a red currant or a blackberry or something like that. Really, really nice, interesting tomato, the Rosella. And I have one of these pretty little fat boys as well, just split ever so slightly on the bottom. So this one is definitely ready. It looks a bit like a Crimson Crush. And to be honest, I don't know what this is. So I'll flash it up on screen if I feed it out. If not, then mystery tomato. Interesting. There are loads and loads of these foul cucumbers as well. These crystal lemon I'm not impressed with. I will go home and taste these, and I will post on the screen if we got unlucky with the bitter ones. And you can see there's loads here. They're on the small side, I think. This is the largest one I've got, and having tasted them now, I just think these look horrible. They are really spiny. I don't know if you can see that, but really spiny, which just makes me think they're nasty, like horrible little things. Look at this weird one as well. It's got one of those things where the flower's stuck and it's got a ring, but this little smooth bit doesn't have any prickles, and it's so smooth and strange, and it's really disconcerting, and I hate it. Please. Now this is it. This is the main event, starting the tomato harvest. It's the Black Moon. I've just harvested loads of the Apero, looking really nice. These are so glossy. Oh, such a sweet tomato. And it feels like such a shame taking away from this magnificent, like, super truss. There's so many tomatoes on it, but like I say, it's better to harvest it rather than leave it to look pretty and then they all start exploding and you don't get a very good harvest. I don't particularly have any kind of tricks or tips for how to know when it's time to harvest the tomatoes. You kind of get used to the varieties. I find generally the best thing to go off is just the squidge test. You know, see how soft they are. If they're still really, really firm, ooh, that is the first bit of blossom end rot I've seen. One of the black moon. That's interesting. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. But yeah, the squidge test. If they're squidgy, that generally means they're going to be ready. And something I have to talk about, the brads. Last year, I said that I wasn't that impressed with the brads, and this year my brads are this kind of colour, a kind of green and yellow, slight bit of orange that have come through. Now, I don't know, I'm not very good on the difference between my fusion and my grape. I don't know which one I've got. Whoa, no. Oh. It's safe, it's fine. But I bit into one of these the other day and it was amazing, so sweet. And that's what people always told me about the brads, is that they were really sweet, delicious tasting tomatoes. And last year I didn't get any of that really. And I don't think I was harvesting them early. That's what a lot of people were saying. You know, maybe you've just harvested them early. I think it just had a bit of a dud year for the brads, but I'm a convert. This year they taste absolutely incredible and they look fantastic. So I've just been harvesting away for a little while. And this one is an interesting one. Something's gone wrong here. This I have labelled as Black Russian. And Black Russians, I have checked, they are not a cherry tomato, so I think I might have mislabelled. And this, I think, is actually Black Opal, and I think I've got 4 Black Opal plants. And this is okay, I would say. It's quite nice, it's fresh, it's pleasant, it tastes like a really nice homegrown cherry tomato. But nothing special, I would say. Like, definitely better than anything you can buy at the supermarket, but not, you know, it's like a good 7 out of 10 tomato, this one. The black, I think it is the Black Opal anyway. The Black Opal I have planted at the back and they look very similar to this. So it's quite possible I labelled them and just wrote black or something like that and then thought Black Opal, Black Russian, and I've got them mixed up. Bit of a shame, but what is not a shame, the Alice's Dream. Are you ready? This is one of the most gorgeous tomatoes I have ever seen in my entire life. We did have a bit of confusion about whether or not this was the tomato that looked as good as it did. This was a recommendation from Jessie at plot 37. And oh, look. This is, I don't know if it comes across on camera, but this is so fantastically vibrant. The colour on the bottom, that kind of sunburnt yellow going into dark at the top. And I am so excited to taste this one. I have had loads and loads of re-sprouting from the base of the plants this year. There's one here, there's a few in here that I've tried to keep on top of, normally by cutting, but pretend I didn't do that. But it does just keep on coming back this year. Not sure how common that is. There's a few brads on here, maybe a little firm. I think this must be the grape because it looks grape coloured, you know, that dark green colour. I'm just doing the squidge test on all the brads especially are quite tricky. And I'm pretty sure these are the same seeds. The seed packet that I have says they're the same variety. But actually the plants are producing very different tomatoes. This one on the right, much darker compared to these really colourful ones. Just one of those things, I think, potentially open pollination, maybe leading to slightly kind of unstable produce and traits. Oh, there's some nice Black Opal or Black Russian back there. What is amusing is back here we have more, these ones are Black Cherry, which are a classic, and to be honest, distinguishing between this and the Black Opal, I find it quite difficult. They look pretty much the same to me. How are they tasting? Oh, this is a much richer, Black Cherry actually I'm enjoying more than Black Opal. Oh wow, that is worlds apart. A much deeper, richer, kind of more complex flavour for me on these Black Cherry. And a tiny bit of that kind of Rosella fruitiness coming in at the end as well. They look a lot like Rosella, actually, in colour. I love it in this tunnel. Do not get me wrong, I absolutely adore this, but this is like the opposite of a video studio. You know, it's so difficult to find places to put the camera in here. And I just got the proper tripod out and was like, yes, this will solve the problem. It's solved no problems whatsoever. What I have realised though is I think I'm long overdue a prune, so I want to go through here and start really doing a bit more work on taking off bottom leaves, and the side shoots I'm kind of on top of, but I think there's a lot of leaves that can come off, and a lot of the tomatoes at the back of the tunnel are really struggling, and I think a lot of that is to do with this front row blocking out the light. So I think if I do a bit of pruning in here, some time well spent, you know. What a beautiful sight. Look at that. Now you'll see at the front I've left a few out, and that's just because I want to talk about these. There's a few varieties that we haven't touched on yet. Are you on my face? Oh, I can't tell. Can you focus on my face, please? Oh. This is the stuff you don't normally see making a video. Look, oh, I've got to go all the way up here. Touch the screen, focus on my face, thank you. Okay, where were we? This is just fantastic, isn't it? Now, there's one here. This, amazing. This is the Paul Robeson, and I had one of these the other day, one of the earlier tomatoes. Fantastic. A pretty good flavour, but the texture, wow, it was just so sort of juicy and the way that it melts in the mouth is just fantastic. The flavour is described as kind of smoky. There's a few here that have split, so I've taken the whole lot. Really squishy, overripe ever so slightly, but Paul Robeson's an interesting one. It can catch you out, you know. It doesn't quite look ripe because it's got a lot of green in it. It's this kind of dark red but also green. There's a few here which are a complete mystery to me. I want to zoom you in so you can see this. It's quite difficult for me to do so. Give me a second. Hello again. Oh, this is horrible. See, now it's not going to focus on the tomato. We're going to have to rearrange how we're doing this. Okay, slightly more up close and personal. Now this one, look, very, very weird. I lost my labels for 2 plants in here, and it turns out it's this one. And you can see this one is split too, overripe. I had no idea it was close to ripeness because of the colour. It's purple and, you know, dark on top, and I have no idea what this could be. I don't remember planting anything like this. You've got to be careful when they've split because they can go mouldy, but you give them a good once over, give them a little wash, and then I'm just going to taste this one, see what it is. Wow, that is soft. That is juicy. Oh, that's weird. That is a tomato with no acidity whatsoever, which is always a bit strange. It doesn't have that kind of sharpness. A little bit on the skin. It is borderline mealy, which is where you get a texture that's kind of similar to jelly almost, like it's wet in a really unpleasant way and kind of almost slightly gritty. It's hard to describe a mealy tomato, but if you've eaten one, you'll know exactly what I mean. And I do associate that with yellow tomatoes. Most of the yellow ones I've grown before have had that kind of mealy texture. Really, really strange, this one. Almost tasteless. A little bit of kind of light freshness, but no acidity, not much sweetness. It's not mealy. It's nearly mealy, but it's not quite there. It's okay. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. If you have any idea what this mystery tomato is, please let me know. Haha, next one though. Oh, look at this. Look at this, absolute treasure. Excuse my, I've got the tomato fingers. Excuse those, but oh, the most gorgeous tomato. If you've been watching the channel, you should know this one. The black strawberry from Baker Creek. I didn't rate the taste that much this year, but this is the first one, so it might be like the Brad's for me, which has been surprisingly nice, and last year it might have been a bit of a dud. Unfortunately, no. It's not bad. I like the centre, but the actual wall, like the flesh of this tomato, is just not particularly pleasant. The centre with the seeds and the juice is nice, And once again, a slightly mealy texture for me, the black strawberry, but I think I would still grow this just for how good it looks. Next one, the Alice's Dream. I've already showed you this, but it's so good. I just wanted to mention it again. This is, to date, the most gorgeous tomato I've ever grown, and this is so ripe. But I want to take this home. I don't want to taste this one without Jess. It's so squidgy. I think another day, and this might have split, but oh, what a sight, what a sight. And there's a few more. I've got my first tamande, which is just a tiny little mini one, a plant right in the corner, not looking too healthy, but it's a harvest, it counts. And look at this one. Very similar, actually, in the way that it's growing, but this is the Lithium Sunset. This was sent to me by Growing Local, and a fantastic name. And once again, just gorgeous, gorgeous tomato. I was going to say chili. I always want to say just gorgeous chili is like embedded in my head from saying it so many times on videos, but this really quite special. Looks phenomenal. And this is only a little one, so I can eat this without Jess. Oh, it's soft. Oh, that's fantastic. It's amazing going from like a bland yellow tomato to something like this. This is electrifying in comparison. Oh, yeah, that's just good. You know, that is just good. Hard to describe the flavour. Oh, it looks so gorgeous. It's amazing when the colour goes through into the tomato flesh itself. So cool. Really nice texture, good acidity, not too much sweetness. Oh, that's given me chills. That is special. The weather has turned absolutely grim and grey recently, and this is like a taste of summer. It feels like I'm eating these completely out of season almost. Oh, that is just heaven. Absolute heaven. Brilliant. That is really special. Lithium Sunset. That is going back on the list for growing next year, 100%. Amazing, amazing tomato harvest today. A few chilies, a few cucumbers, a few courgettes, and I'm going to get that cabbage and the potatoes to take home as well. Just look at this. This is the first like actual proper harvest from the allotment. I've been taking lots of little harvests this summer, you know, bits and bobs here and there, but this is the first one where I've really, you know, had to bring up the car. We've got loads of spuds. I've got, you know, so many of these at home as well, but I thought it was time to see how they were doing in these tubs where I've just been storing them. And I think it was a good thing because I think they're getting too warm, and a few of them have just started sprouting, ever so slight chits. So yeah, they can't really be stored outside in these. Not on my allotment anyway. So we've got some nice earlies and some good proper, good sized roasters as well, you know. Nice. The tomatoes, obviously amazing. There's chilies hidden in there, and those beaver dam are so sweet. I love those kind of sweet chili peppers, as well as cucumbers. This is it. This is it. It's finally all paid off and worth it, you know. I've included the cabbage because it looks so flipping incredible. But of course, I can't really take credit for this. But nice to take a few carrots as well. They're the first actual carrots I'm taking home. So very, very pleased. And like I say, a bit of a negative thumbnail and a bit of a negative start to the video. But for me, this is sort of taken the pressure right off. I'm not worried basically about sowing or growing anything for the rest of the season. You know, I'm not completely opposed to it. Obviously, if I get the time and I'm up here and I've got seeds and there's things to be doing, I will do them. But so it's just so really low on the priority list at the moment. You know, today I've just been doing a bit of tending. I haven't watered anything. I've just pruned and harvested, and I think I've been up here for about 4 hours, you know, so it's so easy for these things to take way more time than you think. And with work and everything, it's just, I'm not going to stress out about it, and I'm just going to enjoy what the plot has to offer. Lots of brassica harvests on the way, I think, as well. Is that a little maggot? No, you're fine. Okay, very good. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I do just want to say a massive thank you to all the patrons. Views start to taper off this time of year. Gardening sort of, it's a very seasonal topic, and where I've been so busy with work and making fewer videos, having the Patreon money coming in is like invaluable. I have basically been saving all my pennies for the winter projects and the shed rebuild, which I'm very, very excited about. So massive, massive thank you to the patrons, like from the bottom of my heart. It makes such a big difference. An extra special thank you to all of my Chili Pepper tier patrons: Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Socks in the Garden, Andrew, Sarah, Dorcas, or Louise, Andrea, Andre, and Brett. Hopefully I will see you all again very soon.